quickly because I have to get on the road to discuss my last week. And I teased on the YouTube update that I would talk about. Before I got down here, I'm thinking, what the fuck? Because there's a reason why I don't like traveling. It was almost like it was karma. Like, okay, you're supposed to be on your summer vacation and you lied to yourself. So now we're going to fuck with you. There was a traffic schmoz in Nashville. Took me an hour to go 10 minutes. There was a traffic schmoz between Nashville and Chattanooga. Took me another hour to go another 10 miles. Then as soon as I got to go up Mont Eagle Mountain, it started to rain on me. Then I got stuck in the rush hour traffic in Chattanooga. Then I managed to make my way to Perry, Georgia. Do not ever stay at the Hampton Inn in Perry, Georgia. I love the Hilton properties. I really do. I'm an honors member. They use their left and right turn indicators in their cars all across America. But I finally get out of this goddamn trip from hell out of the vehicle, and I get my room and I go in, and it smelled like your grandmother's basement. They'd apparently had some type of plumbing fiasco, I guess, and even though that the room had no water damage, the humidity was 100%. It was mildewy. It was damp. It was like in a holding cell, and I was so tired. I said, fuck it, I'll spray a little air freshener, because, of course, that's in the toiletry bag, too. You never know when you need to freshen up your surroundings. And then I immediately went to sleep, and I wake up every hour with mildew, and now I'm naked, and my shit's already spread out, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So that was horrible. And then finally I get to Orlando the next day, and 15 miles from the hotel, there's the goddamnest thunderstorm cloudburst, people driving on the interstate 25 miles an hour with their flashers on, standing water everywhere. It was a death-defying 1 hour ordeal to go 15 miles to get into this fucking hotel. And as soon as I pull up to the hotel, hallelujah, the clouds part and it's fucking sunny and fine. It was an ordeal, but I deserved it for lying to myself about my summer vacation. Anyway, I want to start by saying I appreciate all of the congratulations. I'm not sure congratulations are in order. You know, I've appeared on TV, as I mentioned before. I've done that many times. But a lot of people have have said that on Twitter and on the internet, oh, we can't wait. Cornette's going to really do a great job in Global Force Wrestling. Or then there's, of course, the other side of the coin. The other people go, fuck Cornette. He's going to fucking ruin it, you know, because I'm such a polarizing figure. But I want to say for the people who loved the show and said that I made the whole thing great and you can just see me making changes already, thank you very much. But I did nothing but what I did. If I was involved in the segment and you liked it, I appreciate it. But as far as that, the fine folks who produce and create the program did everything else. I wasn't going to be Jim Cornette and come in and change everything and tell everybody what to do on the spot. I preferred to wait a day or two. But also for the people who didn't like the show and said, well, Cornette's spoiling it already. You can tell he's fucking everything up. I also say I didn't have anything to do except for the part that I was addressing. So I appreciate the positive and I don't give a shit about the negative. But if you enjoyed me, great. And I was addressing the issues that corporate asked me to address. And that's what I did. And I was observing. Because it's no secret, I've not watched a lot of modern wrestling, whether it be Global Force or anything else. So I was observing to give my recommendations, if they're asked for, and sometimes when they are not, on other talent or items that I would see or matches or whatever. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that everybody's got a great attitude now here. We weeded out a few more over the week. The people who want to be on the team are here, and the people who don't want to be on the team are not. And I like that because that opens up more opportunities and more space and more chances for people who do want to be on the team. And the thing is, I've always said, if you don't want to be in working for the company you're working for, then leave. I have many times. But if you're going to tell them that you're going to work for them, you give them 100% and you do your best until it becomes an untenable position to do so, which is the situation that occurred with me last 2009. But it was amazing, Brian, because you take just 2 or 3 people out of an equation and it freshens the air. So let's not beat around the bush. Dixie Carter's a fucking idiot douchebag, and she nearly wrecked his company and drove it into insolvency, and she fucking parceled out pieces of it. It looked like Jim Baker splitting up goddamn Carowinds amusement park, or whatever his, religious empire was called back then. Vince Russo, who obviously we need go no further, is gone. It was a major cancer. And everybody else, and there's a few other people on the talent roster that were here in 2009 that they're not now, that make it easier to put this production together. But everybody else wants to be here. And one person I want to mention that I was sorry I didn't get to see because they couldn't come to terms was Elijah Burke, Pope D'Angelo De Niro, who is an old OVW guy. And he was gone by the time I got here. I was looking forward to seeing him. But they could not come to terms. Otherwise, it's a rebuilding period. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Like I said, there was a lot of damage done, but they are trying to move in the right direction. Even though I'm not a world traveler, the global partnerships are very important to the company because it provides them a pipeline of talent. Because as we all know, good talent, experienced talent that can work major television productions is still thin these days because of the experience factor that most of the guys on the independents don't get. So that's all important. There were a lot of bright spots, I thought, on the program, and there was some stuff that I wouldn't have done if you held a gun to my head, but that's just me. So it's going to be a situation where if we agree on a return for me, or if they have something else for me to address, then I will give my opinions on things that I've observed, and I will try to do the best I can to be a positive influence. I did get a chance to talk to the Anthem folks in person and met a couple people that I've not met in person before, and I can say that everybody knows about the Hardy situation. I've made my feelings known about that, and that doesn't really change. I don't like the idea of promoters suing the boys for their gimmicks, at least, not for if you breach on a contract and no show and try to go to some other company while you're under valid contract or whatever. I can see a lawsuit there, but for gimmicks and intellectual property, I'm not with it. But that matter went to the attorneys and the legal folks before I was discussed with or thought about. So I can't really do anything about that, but I can say this to everybody. After my discussions with the Anthem officials, they probably will not be suing any of the boys for their gimmicks anymore going forward. Now that it's a learning curve when you get in this business, and you don't have a lot of experience in it, but they're nice folks. I have to say that. They were very kind to me. As far as the tapings go, I mentioned that it was a long process, and I'm physically not up to shit like that anymore. But anytime you get to hang out with Dutch Mantell for a week, it can't be bad. It was really great to see Dutch again, along with a lot of the other wrestling production personnel like Scott Moore and Abyss, and of course Double Jeff himself. It was 41 years ago last month that I went to work for Jeff Jarrett's grandmother. And 35 years ago last week that I went to work for his father. Wow. So I asked him what the Jarrett family retirement plan was, and I haven't got that package yet. I've always raved about trying for the Stewie Griffin compliment sandwich. I'm going for the positive. I've always raved about TNA's production staff, the TV production guys who do a tremendous job, sometimes under challenging circumstances. The producer, Keith Mitchell, the director, Dave Sahadi, ring announcer Dave Penzer just returned, and he's always good for a hoot. Jimmy Long, who's one of our OVW guys, Paradise, who's now in production in Nashville in the office and is a whiz kid with television production. It's great to see him. And I will say that I didn't get to see everybody on the talent roster, but I was really happy that not only is there some guys there that I know, but also some old OVW guys and some guys that I've had the opportunity to help train and work with in the past. Eddie Edwards, who obviously I know from Ring of Honor, I think is one of the finest young talents in the business. Chris Masters, Chris Adonis, who was an old OVW guy and is a great kid. Bobby Lashley, of course, one of the baddest men on the planet, former OVW guy. Cowboy James Storm, one of the TNA originals. Love seeing James. Matt Sydal, hell of a kid. Wonderful talent. Glad to see him back in good shape. And the champion Eli Drake, who I just met, but he has a lot of potential and one of those attitudes from, the cocky young fellow. And, of course, whether you call him John Hennigan, John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny Moon, whatever, Johnny is a rock star, and we enjoyed having him in OVW. I've enjoyed seeing bits and pieces of him in the last several years, and he just debuted, and I think he's going to be a major, as JR would say, a blue chip player. He's going to make an impact, no pun intended. So you've got a good base of talent. We had some interesting matches. And I don't know what else to say. I'm up in the air because if they have things that they want me to continue to address, I will make myself available to them. I doubt very seriously if upcoming in the future I will do 6 days in a row of television taping again. It's difficult for me to stay away from home this long with the website business and et cetera, and also because I become homicidal after about 5 days away from the castle. But I didn't sign, as I mentioned on the YouTube update, any full-time or exclusive or long-term contracts or anything of that nature, not because I don't want to work for the company on an ongoing basis, but because I'm not going to sign anything full-time, long-term, or exclusive with anybody because I'm too old. So some people ask, well, what does this mean for the podcast? And what does this mean for Cornette's Collectibles? Calm down, folks. Drink a bowl of Valium soup. Everything is fine. Can you think of anything else that people were setting their fucking hair on fire about that I've not addressed, that they need to know the answers to, or they can't live a happy life this week?
Well, in terms of what we do, of course, the drive-thru and the bonus drive-thru have both been on a little bit of a hiatus because of the scheduling, and we couldn't originally give that out and say, hey, Jim's on the way to Florida. But that's why the schedule for those shows has been a little off, but everything returns to normal next week, correct?
Yes, and because I will be back home and I'll not be leaving home for a while. But yeah, the schedule is just when you're getting up at 10 in the morning, take a shower and go over to the park, and you're there all day, and by the time you get out, if you get back to the hotel, it's just maybe just in time that room service is cut off. Although one night I was over there till fucking 10 minutes to midnight and ate at Denny's. So as you can see, I've been on a conditioning program, so there just was no time to work in a recording session or, to get the drive-thru done this week, but we will be back next week on our regular schedule because people are deprived when they don't get to hear the dulcet tones and words of wisdom that we provide. So, but I'm hesitant to say it, but I got a little bit of a bug being around some guys, like I said, like Johnny Impact, Eddie Edwards, and even Drake and Adonis and Lashley Storm, guys that really take the business seriously, take their business seriously, and work hard and are main event players. And seeing so many guys behind the scenes and the production crew working hard to put the show together, the bug does bite a little bit. But I hope once again that I can contribute in some way while being a recurring character, but I'm not going to be beaten to death on television. I don't mean that physically. I mean, I'm not going to attempt to shove myself, nor will they attempt to shove me down anybody's throats, because I feel sometimes authority figures should be seen and heard. Other times they might just need to be seen, and sometimes you just need to talk about them. So hopefully I will not wear out my welcome.
I think it's another thing we should just quickly address here, because so many people see you pop up on Impact and their first thought is, okay, Jim is someone who's been a booker. He's been involved in that office previously. He must be booking. He must be involved in the creative end. You're here to say no.
Well, and once again, it's not like, hey, I didn't book that shit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you like it, great, but I didn't have anything to do with it. If you don't like it, well, fuck you, but I didn't have anything to do with that either. But the last thing that I would do is attempt to go in and exert a bunch of influence on things when I was at the same time, because I did not have a lot of lead time on this before the first conversations. So I wasn't up to speed on everybody to begin with. So as I said, I was trying to observe. I'd be more than happy to give my opinions. But I think that not only would my doctor and maybe the manufacturers of my blood pressure medicine would enjoy it if I was booking again. I know my doctor probably wouldn't, and I'm pretty sure that Stacy would take a hammer to me. because that's especially the way I do it, it's a heavy commitment of almost nothing else in your personal life. So I'll be more than happy to pinch hit off the bench and come in with some things, but I'm not attempting, folks, to take over the entire program. And corporate has been very kind in assigning me key issues to discuss or give input on.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know what else to say, but I had a good time. Saw a bunch of old friends. Like I said, kind of enjoyed seeing a television production done again, just because everybody was working hard to make it good and was all trying to pull together on the same team. Like I said, after we've, weeded a few people out, they're not going to tolerate anymore. Guys having their personal lives being plastered all over TMZ. They're not going to tolerate any more people taking to social media and making grand statements about not participating unless their needs are met, because after all, these fucking people are not goddamn Hulk Hogan, nor Stone Cold Steve Austin, nor Nature Boy Ric Flair, nor anywhere close to those type of people. And we, had made mention that if anybody wasn't happy with the current situation, that we had a staff of personnel that would be more than happy to carry their bags out to the fucking car and show them the direction of the gate. But by the same token, I have it on good authority that everybody working for Impact now and for Global Force Wrestling, they're actually getting checks on time that actually cash. So it's a two-way street. And since Anthem has gone that far with some of these folks, I think some of these folks ought to go that far for Global Force Wrestling. You know me, I take the business seriously. I'm sorry, but if we're going to do something, let's do it.
Yeah, you definitely take it seriously, and that's a good thing. And I'm glad, look, whatever limited involvement it is or isn't, I'm happy that if you have that little feeling, that little bug, I'm happy you're getting to do something where you're not going to lose your mind with anger, but you get to be involved in something you really care about.
Well, yeah, and once again, a lot of these guys are working very hard, and they want to create a break for themselves. And if we can help support, because I've always said wrestling needs an alternative. And I've been hard on these folks before because, frankly, of the grisly stench left in my mouth from the previous administration. But after we sat down and talked about some of those problems, if they're going to move forward in a different fashion and try to fix these things, try to bring in more top talent, try to give the fans the best show that they can, then I'm going to attempt to contribute in whatever way I can. But once again, let's tamp down the rumors. Jim Cornette has taken over completely. It'll be a slow takeover, not even hostile, just slow and sly. A year from now, all right, here, I'll bring Dixie Carter in as one of the knockouts so I can put a fucking cake in her face or something. Fucking douchebag. Boy, I'll tell you what, you just mentioned her name on this property down here these days. You ought to see some of the fucking facial reactions. Looks like somebody held a goddamn steaming turd under most people's faces and just waved it around their nose when you mention her name. But I digress. And I think that's the most satisfaction that I've got from the weekend is everybody knows, or the week, everybody knows I left here before under false pretenses. Dixie and Mr. Russo put out a bunch of horseshit and lies to justify their decision when I was the last of Jeff's personnel to go before. And that's why I had to carry on my own campaign of letting people know what happened, because the promised retraction of the false information from douchebag Carter did not come. So since I left under false pretenses before, I was happy to come back and have a positive experience with everybody else that still works here that was there then under the oppressive yoke of tyranny that was the little southern flower known as Dixie Douchebag Carter. So that was fun too.
Dixie Douchebag Carter.
How you doing, Dixie? That's her new official name now. It's like, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Dixie Douchebag Carter. Can you hear Buffer introduce from Nashville, Tennessee, at an undisclosed weight, Dixie Douchebag Carter.
In the red corner, carrying a red glass of wine, Dixie Douchebag Carter.
That has gone around the world. actually, because it used to be just the personnel in the company that knew that she was going to be at the hotel sucking up to the top stars and drinking expensive red wine after every show. But now it's around the world.
Can you please put that on the expense account? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to one guy who shall remain nameless who quit doing the thing that he was supposed to be reimbursed for after he was 8 months behind with her. And then when the company went under, she didn't, of course, the family's worth multi-millions of dollars, but she didn't bother to pay any of those people that she fucking stuck when she ran her company into the ground that were working for nothing for months. To make them whole, but that's another story. And hey,
that's the thing too. Though, a lesson to everyone listening: if you're doing something, even if you really want to do it and you hope for the best, but you're not paid for work you did for 8 months, quit after 2 months.
Yeah, that would be, well, I would say, we got, the Cult of Cornette members on, those folks that hadn't paid me after just about a month or so. So maybe even less than that. All right. Anyway,